a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
Welcome, everybody, to Sports Cards Live on the road at the virtual Sport Card Expo. Really happy to be here, really proud to be hosting this. We have a great panel for you this afternoon, and we have a great topic. So let's bring out our guest, Mikey, if you don't mind. Let's welcome everybody to the stage. All right, here we have that direction, we have Chris McGill from Old Time House of Jordans podcast from cardladder.com. Right beneath me, we have, you all know him, you've all heard of him, you all respect him, Dr. James Beckett from the old Beckett magazines, and now from Sports Card Insight podcast, where he releases a podcast just about every day. And we have Carvin Chung, the architect, inventor of the Cup and Exquisite, formerly of Upper Deck Panini and currently with GTS Distribution. Fellas, how are you all doing this afternoon? Chris, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on Sports Cards Live on the road, Jeremy.
On the road, on location at the Virtual Expo. Carvin, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be in Canada. Wow.
Yeah. So, and Dr. Beckett, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jeremy. Thanks for setting this up.
Oh, it's my pleasure, guys. It's my pleasure. Well, we have about 45 minutes on the stage, so let's get right down to it. I'm sure we have a great audience with us this afternoon. Everyone's attending the expo. I hope everybody's having a great time, checking out all the booths, doing some buying and selling, and listening in on all the conversations going on at the expo. It will be going on today and, of course, tomorrow as well. Okay, guys, our topic for discussion today is the sustainability of the hobby. As we all know, it's been an interesting road the last year, really, since the pandemic came into our lives. And the market has gone up and down. So we're going to address some really subtopics within sustainability. The first one I want to talk about has to do with the price of products today and whether they are sort of shutting out the next generation of collectors. So let's kind of go around. We'll do a little bit of a round table here. We'll go around the horn. Let's start with Chris from House of Jordans and Card Ladder. Chris, give you a couple minutes to address today's prices. Do you think this is shutting out any of the next generation?
Well, Jeremy, I know a lot of collectors are they're very concerned about this. I'm not quite one of them, but I respect where they're coming from. For example, over the last year or more, you really can't go to Walmart anymore or Target unless you'd like to pitch a tent and wait in line overnight and hopefully get one product allocated to you. So that the ability to get blasters, megas, retail stuff has been sort of eliminated. And then, if you wanted to go get a hobby box at your local hobby shop, you're going to be paying, eBay prices or more. So, once again, the ability to get those megas and blasters and stuff has become incredibly difficult. And so I empathize with that. I understand the theory that if kids can't get access to products, and it seems like the stuff at Walmart and Target is specifically geared at them, if they can't get access to those products, then how are they going to get into the hobby? And you can see the chain reaction and the logic there. So I empathize with that. I understand it. The other side of the coin, though, is that I could go on eBay right now, and if I had a nice, crisp $100 bill, I could get 50 raw Prism base cards of a ton of interesting prospects from the 2020-2021 basketball season. And so although the traditional way of participating in the hobby on a small budget, like a kid might participate in it, although that doesn't exist anymore, there are many ways to economize and to participate in the hobby on a smaller budget. So I just see there being two sides to that coin. And, do I wish that kids could go into Target and Walmart and get retail at $20 for a blaster or whatever? I do, but at the same time, the fact that the demand is so strong for that stuff isn't the worst thing in the world either.
All right, appreciate the perspective. I like hearing both sides of the coin there. Carvin, let's go down to you. How do you feel about the prices of wax these days and the next generation's ability to access it?
So a couple things. I'll give you an analogy. I always do, right, in our shows. So when I drove my first car, I love that shiny new Porsche that everyone else that I saw all my friends driving, or a BMW or a Ferrari. Well, I got a hand-me-down Cutlass, a boat that was probably worth about $600, right? We can't have what we have. When we start driving, no one's going to give us a Ferrari. We're not going to have that opportunity. Should you make money, should you do well in the hobby or do well in your business and your career, then you can buy a Ferrari. So all these, I get the notion that we want kids or we want new collectors to buy NT basketball or the exquisites or the flawless, but that the price point is designed for a high-end collector. It's a luxury item versus the dollar per pack item, like, opening day, or potential for like the hoops. There's a lot of hoops type retail. Gravity fees are available. All that is available for stores to order. They're available for even some of the online retailers. A lot of people don't like it, but that's what is available for a starter, a person getting into the business. And also, one thing of note, that the timelines of building products is about a year out. So since the pandemic has started, let's say back in 2020, middle of 2020, everything's blowing up and all these prices are going up. Well, we're still in the middle of 2021. So obviously, as soon as we see the prices of products going up, the demand going bonkers, the leagues know that they have to cater to a new collector or starter. So they're going to start enforcing new products to come down the pipeline. It might not happen in 2021, but you'll probably see a lot more in 21, 22, or 22. If the prices stay high, they're going to enforce that we want new engagement, new starting products for collectors, and different SKUs to appeal to them. So I think that's going to be coming down the pipeline. It's just to remember, the lead time is at least a year out. So it takes a post-mortem and then a year out from post-mortem to discuss marketing opportunities. And I guarantee it, the leagues are also going to start marketing towards young collectors for the sports cards, more so than ever.
That's good news right there. All right, let's go down to Jim. So you've had your eyes on the hobby for quite some time. What is your perspective on this one?
Well, I think what's wrong with society is that supposedly educated people are not able to argue both sides of an issue. And even in this issue, it seems obvious that kids are being priced out. Well, they are being priced out of certain products, but they're not being priced out of the hobby. And so if you think about, as Chris was saying, this is a demand-driven hobby. And so for kids to have it be this aspirational that, hey, I'm trying to get cards and they're too expensive, they're too hot, it's not necessarily a bad problem. And like Carvin was saying, I want that Ferrari too, but you're going to start with a Cutlass. Actually, Carvin, I got to tell you, I actually started with a Cutlass, so you really cut me deeply. It was not a boat at the time,
relatively speaking. And my quick thoughts on it are such that, and one of you, I think Chris said, there's many ways to be active in the hobby. You don't just have to open up products. You can still take $10, $100, and you can go shopping. You can go shopping on ComC. You can go shopping on eBay. You can go to a card show. You can find cheaper cards out there and still have some fun. And you just have to understand that, until you are in a position to afford the luxury items, you might just have to wait and work your way up there. And I know a lot of, as a species, we're pretty impatient. So sometimes it's hard to do, but you got to just do what you can. And there's lots of ways in. And one thing I like to tell people is Halloween's a great time to take cards and put them in team bags and give them away on Halloween. But the trick to that is you also have to give away the chocolate bars. You can't just give the kids baseball cards or hockey cards or basketball cards, but taking 10 cards, putting them in a team bag and giving them away on Halloween is a great way to grow the hobby, in my opinion. All right, guys, the next topic we're going to talk about is we are in this era of single licenses for all the four big sports. And is it conducive to the growth of the hobby? So we're going to start this one with Carvin. Carvin, I know you've got some thoughts on this, and you've been an industry insider for quite some time. How do you feel about the single license era, and is it conducive to future growth?
Well, you know me to be a devil's advocate, so I can give you reasons why you want competition and reasons why you don't want competition. So, but I know that more and more people talk about why they want competition. I'll give you the reasons why competition doesn't really work sometimes. So let's say if Panini is putting out 40, and everyone always talks about basketball, so I'll use basketball because they remember Topps Chrome and Exquisite and all these products. So Panini has 40 brands a year. Let's say you had a share license. It's kind of hard to say, hey, you guys only get to do 12, 15 brands a year because the league wants more money, right? So in order for the league wants more money, you're probably looking at 30 brands per company per year with all the different SKUs. So that's 90 different products over a 52-week cycle. So that's 2 to 3 products, not including all the SKUs that comes up week by week. What do collectors say about that then? They always say, that's too much product. I can't afford to buy all that stuff or all the different SKUs, all the different parallels, right? Also on top of it, you're going to have products that cannibalize each other, right? Exquisite, NT, it's the same drivers, right? Chrome, OPC Platinum, and Prism, they're all Chromium products, right? A lot of companies, just what they do is that they rethink the tool and they create similar or the exact same products, but with an exclusive license. Now they have that ability to grow that brand, to market that brand. So not only, we have to also consider that companies have spent 10 years growing their brands. And when they started, it was a really big challenge to get into the business. Now they have that audience. Now they grew it. Now they have an opportunity to thrive with it. So by introducing Topps Chrome and Platinum into it, now you have 3 like brands in the product, and that's going to confuse people what to collect. So that's aspects of it. Marketing wise, having 3 different companies putting marketing materials is confusing to the marketplace as well. We're seeing more and more single licensee in other aspects, whether it's apparel, whether it's photos, game used, all these different licensees are all going single now. So there's a reason for the leagues going that route. So I think everyone can argue against what I'm saying right now. So I'll leave the stage and let everyone else answer the competition side of it. But hopefully that gives you some aspect of the single licensee argument.
Well, I did know that you were going to go in that direction, the devil's advocate direction. So I thought we'd start with that. Let's go over to Jim. You've, again, I'm going to say it probably every time we come to you, Jim, but you've been around a long time in this hobby. You've seen multi-licenses. You've seen pre-1990, before Upper Deck even came into the space. What are your thoughts now after seeing the different eras we've been through in terms of licensees?
It's a good way to express the question, Jeremy. Basically, if I do break it up into 3 periods, the recent period where we've had single licensees, the time before that where there was a lot of chaos, as Carvin has articulated, and then the time from 1980 and before, which Topps had it all to themselves. And I'm hard pressed now to think that this is the good new days. I mean, this is as good as it's ever been in terms of the growth of the industry. So the social experiment of do single licensees work, we've had spectacular growth. Now you go back and you get into the 90s and the 80s, and I think the category was growing, but it wasn't healthy. And a lot of the companies went out of business and they were competing against each other, and it was chaos. And then I was thinking that back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, when Topps had it all to themselves, well, gee, they were the only licensee. That must have been bad after they bought out Bowman. But if you look at 59 Topps baseball, 69 Topps baseball, 79 Topps baseball, I bet there's a double-digit compound interest, growth in the category with some order, with the Topps being the single licensee, and probably the same thing in football. Now, they didn't do basketball every year, but so I was thinking that, gee, it was terrible when we just had Topps. Well, actually, the cards would have had better quality control if we'd had another licensee. But the category was healthy; it was growing, and the category is healthy and growing now. And so I'm hard to argue against, what, and we don't have a vote in it. So that's my contrary viewpoint.
Yeah, that's a great ending there. We don't have a vote in it. We only have voices, but whether or not the leagues and the PAs are listening is another question. Chris, let's go to you. And I know one thing about Chris is that he's very well thought out. I can let everybody know if you're not familiar, and he takes notes while we're all talking, so he doesn't forget anything. There they are. So Chris, let's go to you. Let's hear what you have to say about the single license era.
Yeah, well, I come down on this. I have a lot of similar thoughts to Dr. Beckett and Carmen. I won't repeat those, but I will give voice to some of the other points of view to represent them. One concern that collectors have is that there's a real risk in a monopoly style situation that there won't be checks and balances that a more competitive market space might provide. It's not clear that those checks and balances actually would exist in a more competitive space that had multiple manufacturers and multiple brands and multiple licenses. But there's some reason to think that they would. And so some of the checks and balances that people are seeking is more innovation and creativity in card design. And they think that if there was brands competing against each other the way they did in the chaotic era, that we might see new innovations and technologies applied to card design, because that would be one of the ways in which manufacturers would compete. Now, the flip side to that is that the industry's kind of taken a turn since then, and it became about memorabilia and autograph cards, player assets. And so maybe that's just kind of a utopia that doesn't exist. But that's one of the reasons people care about competition. And the other one is that, going to checks and balances, there's a real concern, and I have this concern too, that everything that is good, that developed over the last however many years, such as the advent of serial numbered parallels, the things like that will continue to be pushed and pushed and pushed to their absolute limit in a single licensee situation. So, for example, the gold parallel, right? Everybody loves the Prism gold parallel. And right now it's numbered to 10. So that's great, because no matter how much product of Prism or Select or whatever, and no matter how much product is made, there's only 10 golds. Except, is that really true anymore? Because there's the true gold, but then there's the fast break or the disco or the no huddle gold, and then there's the gold wave, and then there's the gold autograph variants, and then there's the gold photo variation, and then there's, and so all of a sudden now, one of the best safeguards protecting collectors against the risks of overabundance and overproduction is being pushed to its limit. So people think that competition is going to be a safeguard against a single licensee situation exploiting all of the things and pushing to the limit all the things that collectors have come to appreciate and that are important to protecting things like rarity and scarcity. I hope I did justice to those points of view, but I also hope that I conveyed that I'm not quite sure that introducing a competitive situation is going to help those problems. I'll quote Carvin, as he often says, "Be careful what you wish for." And I like Dr. Beckett's approach that, sort of the serenity prayer, let us just be appreciative for what we have and not worry about the things we can't control. Right. So.
No, but how much would you want the any of these sports or these categories to grow? They're already, not breaking apart at the seams, but are really asking for even more competition that would lead to greater sales and greater growth? I think we got to be really careful. I mean, I don't think the leagues and the Player Association are upset. I think they're getting more and more royalties every year.
Fair. Okay, let's see. We have a question or a comment here. Colin says, I would counter argue that a flood of product to the market would not be bad. It would keep pricing low and provide huge variety. Junk wax, the best thing to ever happen for this hobby. That's certainly a perspective, and a lot of people are really going back and enjoying the junk wax era. My only comments on it, well, not only, but my comments on it are such that, my understanding is that the reason why we're in a single license era in the first place is because the leagues, the PAs, they don't want to deal with multiple licensees because it makes their lives harder. And then I think to myself, well, the hobby has exploded in the last year. If there was ever a time for them to realize that they could maybe make more money, might be now, because they see there's more money at stake. So maybe they would be willing to open it up to competition or to more than one licenses, so that they can maximize their revenue, which is what businesses want to do. And we know professional sports is business. So I think about that. But the flip side for me is like what Carvin said, and I take this very seriously, that do we really need, if we have 3 manufacturers making 25 hockey sets a year, 30 basketball sets a year, is that going to flood the market somewhat? And then people will say, well, don't let them make 30, let them make 10 each. Well, can they survive on 10 each? These are companies that probably cannot survive only making 10 products each. So we're almost forced into where we are. And if the leagues want to renegotiate the contracts or wait till they expire, when do these current contracts even expire? Maybe it's 2025. I'm not sure. By then, the whole landscape might be different. So as you can tell by all 4 of us, no one has the answer to this, but we all agree that the hobby is pretty healthy right now. Ted Lipson says, thankfully, this is Tim Hortons card. There are Tim Hortons cards still being sold for $1 a pack, and kids can still have fun and collect. Great point on the last topic right there, at least for hockey in Canada. All right, guys, we are going to move on to keep ourselves on pace for our time slot. The next topic we're going to talk about is collectors and investors. This has been a hot topic for about a year now. The fact that there's a lot of investors in the space, not just collectors anymore. And really the way I want to approach this, gentlemen, is how do collectors and investors coexist in the hobby ecosystem? Are they necessary for each other in a way? So let's start this one off with Dr. Beckett. Collectors and investors coexisting. How do you see that? How have you seen it so far, Jim, in the last year? And how do you see it moving forward after what we've experienced in the market in the last few months?
Well, obviously, it's where we want symbiosis. We want them to work off each other. But if there aren't enough collectors, that to me, collectors are the more important. Investors are going to come and go. Collectors are going to be coming and stay, and have been here for a long time. So, but investors have, I don't know if they're ignoring collectors, but some of the decrease in prices, ironically, in the last 6 months, the cards that have dipped have been because of collectors bringing out their cards. And so when cards are setting world record prices consistently, those cards are coming out from the collectors. And it's not a bottomless pit, but it seems to me some of these cards that are base cards, even in great condition, there's enough of them that when the price goes up, they're gonna keep going. So collectors and investors need to cooperate more and not vilify each one vilifying the other. And if they do, they'll realize that symbiosis is what's going to cause the hobby to have an enduring and sustainable growth.
Yeah, well said. I agree with that completely. Let's go to Carvin next. Carv, you again, you've been around. You're a collector. You're an industry insider. You have cards you've invested in as well. How do you see the two groups of hobbyists coexisting? So
I do love Dr. Beckett's point of view about all the collectors are cashing out. Some of them are taking profit, which makes sense. It's a lot of money that we're talking about. I mean, a few years ago, it was a handful of $1 million cards. Now we're seeing $1 million cards almost every auction. So it's crazy. But with that said, what's the one thing that I always tell collectors or people in the hobby that have been in business for a while? Today or this past year was the year that we all wished for. We keep on saying, how do we get more people into this hobby? How do we get more people? Now the whole world is watching, and now everyone's like, oh, well, that guy's an investor. Well, I'm a collector. I'm better than them. Guys, be positive. The negativity will bring everyone down. Whether you're an investor, they're investing. We can invest into stocks. We can invest into crypto. We can invest into Funko Pops. We can invest into trading cards. What's the one avenue about trading cards that's cool? Every day there's a game, except for the one day the SBs are on. But every day there's always sport on. There's stickiness. It's almost like daily fantasy sports. I buy a card after this guy performs, or if I have cards for sale when the guy's playing, he hits 3 home runs, all his cards sell. We saw that with Terrence Mann. Chris was talking about it the other day when Terrence Mann went off, and every single card of Terrence Mann was sold on Prism, all the silvers and going up like crazy. So it is kind of a form of DFS. So trading cards is a form of, it's a platform that's very sticky. Investors love it because they're getting into it because of the passion of sports and sports cards. So I always tell people, number one, don't vilify other people. Don't be negative. There's as the NHL always tells me, they always say every sports card collector is a fan of the game, but not every fan of the game is a sports card collector. And as those numbers are growing, we should be basically providing an olive branch and reaching out to them and says, look, I know you're an investor, but let me show you how to collect. And why do we need to collect? Why do we need to have a hobby? It's been proven by a lot of psychologists that having a hobby makes you have a happy life. Everything's not just about money. It's about legacy. It's about what you hand over and what you teach your kids. So you have that aspect to be a collector and really welcome all investors and teach them the way of how to collect. And at the end of the day, we all know that collectors are the ones that rule the roost, right? We're the ones that dictate the pricing and everything. Because if you know what the collectors want, you have it made as an investor.
Yeah. I just want to, I've always, you just said that, not all sports fans are collectors, but all collectors are sports fans. I think that holds true for the most part. And one thing I've wondered is, why aren't more sports fans collectors? Is it because the collector DNA isn't in their genes, or is it because we haven't reached them as a hobby, as the industry hasn't reached them yet, some way, in some way, shape, or form? Do you think that we have penetrated the market yet, or is there still some growth out there available?
Well, here's the one thing about sports cards versus other culture. I always call it geek culture, right? So while San Diego Comic-Con was a huge factor, a lot of people attending the Comic-Con, the sports card show at the National, it was still kind of half full, right? There's probably more money per person being spending on cards, but it wasn't like the flux of people that we had at San Diego Comic-Con. That's American pop culture, or in other words, geek culture, nerd culture. For sports cards, for many years, it's considered geek culture. I grew out of sports cards because at 12 years old, people were like, dude, come on, you're 12 years old, you're still collecting cards? Like, play sports instead. Go. Don't you think that girl's good looking or whatever? All those other factors come into life during your adolescence, and we can't just be looking at our trading cards. It's only after the fact that, well, sorry, Jeremy, I guess you're ahead of everyone else. But after the fact, it comes down to it reminds us of nostalgia. Trading cards is, and Chris talks about this all the time, it's always nostalgia that brings us to a very simple time in our life, and a time that we really enjoyed, and that's nostalgia. Men, I think, are always little boys inside in our heads, and we always want to collect what we used to collect as a kid. So that's what this is bringing, that feeling of euphoria of collecting, and nostalgia is coming back, and it's coming across, like, now it's on business. Like, all the mainstream media is talking about it, and everyone's like, yeah, I got a box of cards. And guess what? They go through those box of cards and they look at them. Their intent is to just get them all graded and sell them. I guarantee you 75 to 80% of those people are like, you know what? No, I'm not selling this. I'm going all in now. I'm buying again, and I'm back to collecting. And that's what's happening right now. Yeah.
I agree, man. Well said. And I like it. As you're mentioning the nostalgia thing, Chris is crossing that off his list because that's something he was going to talk about. So, all right, Chris, let's go over to you. I mean, Chris, for a living, tracks the value and the data on card values. He analyzes the trends with Card Ladder. Check out cardladder.com if you haven't yet. Chris, why don't you speak a little bit now to this collector investor coexisting and how it impacts the hobby?
Yeah, I'm not going to have much to say because Carvin just hit it out of the park. I co-sign it completely. I'll just sprinkle a few things on there. If you like sports and finance, and I think a lot of men do, a lot of people do, but men do for sure, especially men, as they advance in their professions and, develop families, and sports is the release and finance is the tool that enables them to do the things they want to do in life. Sports cards are just this euphoric combination of sports and finance. So it's a really exciting and addicting field to go into for a lot of us for obvious reasons. And so to me, there's not a giant difference between collectors and investors. If the way that they're approaching the hobby is with respect to its history and the fundamental reasons for why things are collectible. And collectors are going to naturally understand those things because, this is a collectibles category. It's a collectibles market, and, collectors who gravitate to it because they have that collector gene that you talk about, Jeremy, they're going to sort of instinctively understand collecting. Investors might not, but the ones who are going to do well over the long run, in my estimation, are the ones who seek to understand the fundamentals that are at work in a collectibles market. And some of the obvious things there, like rarity, legacy, brand name, history, continuity, things like that. So it's a very exciting space that is going to bring together people in ways that, even if they're coming at it from totally different incentives, they're going to have a lot of things in common. That's a great quote. Every investor is just a collector waiting to happen. And maybe vice versa. I don't know. Let me quote Josh. Let me quote my friend and business partner, Josh Johnson. He came up with this quote about a year ago. He says, we don't like sports cards because they're good investments. They're good investments because we like sports cards. That to me kind of sums up the bridge between collectors and investors. So, like I said, I don't really have too much to add. I want to definitely echo everything Carvin said there. And also to your point, Jeremy, there's definitely a lot of common ground between those two groups.
Yeah, I often describe it as the collector-investor dichotomy. You've got this spectrum: collectors here, investors here. If you've watched Sports Cards Live, you've seen me do this before. We all fall somewhere in between on that spectrum. Very few people are one total extreme or the other, but there are some, that's for sure. The people that say, I don't care if all my cards go down to zero value, they're collectors. They probably don't have a ton of money invested. Relatively speaking, I think it's all relative to where you are. But we all fall somewhere in the middle there. And I've also said a lot of times, if you've been in the hobby for a long time, even say 5 years or more, even 4 years or more, you are somewhat of an investor by consequence, because chances are that you bought cards for $100 or $1,000 5 or more years ago that are now worth $10,000 or $50,000. So how do you not consider that an asset? We use the word asset is used a lot now in the space, especially in the fractional ownership space. And, I don't want that to go to zero. I don't care how much of a collector I am. I'm a collector. I'm a collector, but I don't want my $10,000 asset to be worth zero tomorrow. I'll tell you that much. And I don't know anyone who tells you they do. I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid they're drinking, but I think they might want to reassess that position. So, but I think that, we all coexist in the hobby, and I think the hobby has grown a lot in the last year because of the introduction or the entrance of a lot of new investors. Some of them have been successful, and some of them have not. And the ones that have not are using the high mark of February. The month of February 2021 was the high point. And if that's your baseline, then you're in trouble, because we've seen cards come down in value from there. If that is what you're measuring values against, then the hobby has been in trouble for the last 4 months. But if you are ignoring the month of February, and literally that's all you need to do is ignore the last week of January to about the first week of March, erase that from history, and the hobby has been trending upwards consistently in a very nice, healthy sort of increase. So I think the hobby is still great. We just have to really put things in context, step back, take a bit more of a wide angle view, and things are looking pretty good. That's my perspective on that. Okay, guys, let's go on to the next topic, which comes down to, and again, we're talking about sustainability of the hobby. We're talking about people coming in, keeping them in. The next topic I want to bring up is the narrative that is created by content, because I'm seeing a lot of content with a negative spin, a lot of YouTube thumbnails that start with this: is the sports card market crashing? The sort of the negatives. Well, that gets people to click. That's good for the content creators because it gets people to click through, and that's good for the YouTube algorithm. But is that really healthy for the hobby? And do we even care, I guess? So let's see who wants to start this one off. Anybody want to raise a hand? Okay, I'll choose some. Dr. Beckett, let's go to you.
First of all, I like, everybody, I guess, likes analogies, but if you apply it to music, what's going on in the narrative out there is it's not symphonic, it's not cacophonic, it's not jazz, it's everybody doing what they want to do and seeing what sticks. Okay, that's not the kind of music I'd want to listen to. But then you find out I need to tune out these discordant voices, and I need to put together people that I want to hear from. And over time, you're probably going to weed out those who are sensational headlines without as much substance. And you're going to go to Card Ladder, to see, okay, what does the data say? Instead of somebody telling me that their opinion is something's going to crash. So in the world of music, a lot of people have different taste. And I love the fact that there's lots of different voices out there. But like I said, the problem is not how many likes you have or followers you have. If you're leading them astray, that's bad. But hopefully people are going to wise up. Like I said, the educated person in this industry needs to be able to argue both sides of, hey, I think things are going up, but here's some reasons why maybe it's going down. And if they do that and take a balanced view, then they're going to listen and watch these YouTubers and podcasts in a way that they get a benefit. And your show, Jeremy, just to give you a plug, you're doing a variety of interviews with people that come from lots of different perspectives. So that's what they need. They need the not a symphony of voices, because they're not all singing from the same sheet of music, but they need to hear a lot of music.
Yeah, I appreciate the shout out, Dr. Beckett. Really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I agree. We need to kind of round out what it is we're consuming. And, let's go to Chris now, because Chris is often, and I know you'll say it, Chris, so strike this off your list, out of your notes now, but Chris always says that the cynics have an important role in the hobby. So I'll let you play off of that, Chris. I think it's a good lead in.
Thank you, Jeremy. The cynics do have an important role, although their role is less important when they're right. and right now, they have a stronger claim to being right than they did 4 months ago. But so in a bull market, cynics provide balance. In a bear market, optimists provide balance. So let me take up for the optimists here. When it comes to content, and that is a subtopic under the umbrella of sustainability, to me, the formula that works, or that has kept me digging deeper and deeper into this hobby month after month for the last 5 years and counting, is the idea that the hobby is just fun. It's escapism. It's nostalgic. There's something physiological and psychologically powerful about being able to escape, as Carvin was pointing out, to something that many of us did as a kid, and that connects us to a simpler time, a time that wasn't burdened by the complexities of adulthood. And cards are a great release from the complexities of adulthood. So cards can be really, really fun and healthy and enjoyable. And you build community, you build friendships, you develop tastes, you develop opinions, you develop social media pages, you interact, through your content that you make yourself. But it's fun, okay? If the hobby is fun and people wake up every day and look forward to participating in it, that is a recipe for sustainability. And so when content is balanced, and as Dr. Beckett was pointing out, there's a wide variety of things to choose from, and we can sort of make our own menu. That's great, because then we have a say in having fun in this hobby. But something that has happened recently is that almost any content creator that we want to turn to is making content that's a bit pessimistic right now, and And if it's not fun anymore, right? If the hobby goes from being fun and escapism to being stressful and anxiety inducing and worrisome, I think people naturally are going to take a break or take a pause. So that's why, you know, this kind of threads together a lot of different topics here about, you know, going back to the investor collector topic. Collectors are always having fun. Collectors are having fun when the market's going up. Collectors are having fun when the market's going down. They get more of the cards that they want, and if the market's going down, if the market's going up, they're having fun because the stuff they already have is becoming worth more and more. So the collector recipe really kind of resonates with what I'm saying here. So the bottom line here is that if, to the extent that content enhances our hobby experience, and it can enhance people's hobby experience in a lot of different ways. Not everybody is a glass half full person. Some people want the pessimistic content that just suits their personality better. Some people want the very optimistic content that suits it better. Some people want balance that suits them better. But the content, its function in this hobby, in my opinion, is enhancing each individual's hobby experience, making it more enlightened, making it more enjoyable, making it more pleasant, making it so that when we wake up every morning, we reach for our phones, the first thing we go to is what new hobby podcast came out today on Apple Podcasts? What new content is on Instagram, on my Instagram feed that I can go look at? What are my group chats talking about? As long as the hobby's fun and we're all doing that, that's the recipe to sustainability. And I think content that does its job properly is going to facilitate making the hobby enjoyable and fun.
Informing and entertaining is one of the main functions of the hobby content. Carvin, we're going to go to you guys. We are running out of time. Carv, you've got about 90 seconds, and then we're going to wrap up.
So what I will say is that content creators, there are going to be good ones and bad ones. Definitely do your research. Find out who these people are. What is their experience? How long have they been collecting? And what are the people they know? Reach out to them. Find out where their background is. And if people can explain to you why it's on a down market and what could be an opportunity now, you know, if they can be an optimist yet be a pessimist, that balances it out. And that's the way to do research. Because a lot of times, if you're seeking for affirmation and you get affirmation, it might not be the right information you're getting. So definitely do your research, get to know more people. The 3 people in this room or 4 people in this room are great people to ask, you know, just to say, hey, what do you see? Not asking for advice, but just really, what do you see? What does the data show and what possibility opportunities are there? So that's what I will say. Do your research and then also connect with people with good character, great integrity. That's really key, building your relationships.
Yeah, agree. And, you know, if anyone out there is concerned about the hobby, you think it might be in trouble. I hear that sometimes. I'll leave you with two sort of things. The first thing is that as long as there are sports, there will be cards, and as long as there are people, there will be collectors. So enjoy the hobby, and always go back to the cards. If you ever find yourself becoming, you know, a little bit disdained with a hobby or not enjoying it, go back to your cards. That's where the enjoyment really stems from. Go back to your cards and go to your community, because the hobby community is wonderful. We've all made a lot of friends in the last year. Well, those that are active on social media have made a lot of friends, so you can always go back to that. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me on this special episode of Sports Cards Live on the road to the Virtual Expo 2021. Chris from Card Ladder, Carvin the Architect, Dr. James Beckett from Sports Card Insights. Guys, thank you so much. This was great. Everybody else, enjoy the rest of the Virtual Expo.
Hey Steve, we're live.
So
Maybe we're
commercial.
watching it and turn off that other monitor you might got going.
Yeah.
But we're back. I do love that commercial. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Dr. James Beckett. I literally inch closer and closer to my monitor to always see what's on his wall. He always changes it up. There's always something new there. So
each one of those guys is always dropping some real gems of info and stuff. So yeah, it's great.
It was awesome. It was really awesome. It was actually cool to see Jeremy space everything out and really map out his show on the back end. So that was neat to see as well.
Yeah.
And it's just great. It's been an awesome day. We've done some really new, cool things. Some have worked really, really well, and excited for what we've got for tomorrow. Any notes from you, Steve?
It was a super fun day. I mean, we had great, lots of attendance, lots of good stuff in the chat, lots of activity. Everybody was super engaged. I mean, I saw the first backflip on a virtual card expo, and over at the Mint booth, they were dropping bombs and literally doing
KT for sure.
flips and hands, and that was pretty high energy. And the Slab Fest I thought worked really, really well. I had some great stuff. Bring it. Everything about today was awesome. We've got more of that coming tomorrow. After we get out of the way off the stage now, the guys from Just Rip It, who are another group of insanely high energy guys with they do great breaks. They're going to do a lead into their regular Saturday night evening break. So that's super fun. Later tonight, Jeremy from Sports Cards Live and Amit are going to do a review of the show. A way better job than you and I will do. So you can, those who like to stay up late, watch that. And tomorrow we have more of the same kind of excitement happening with more Slab Fest, more Pack Wars. Lots more prizes to give away. I think we're going to give away some stuff now. It's looking for another great day.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And we're actually, to give away some of the gifts, so we've got, as you said, we've got the Show Your Slabs, and we've got collectible case, and we've got some other really cool stuff. To do so, what we're going to do is actually run a Kahoot trivia contest. So you actually have to be on live, unlike this box that I'm going to give away. I just did a random draw, but tomorrow you have to be on live, engaging with us live. You got to win the trivia to win the contest. It will be card-based trivia, so the more knowledge you have, the better off you will be. We look forward to engaging with you tomorrow. So tonight, what we're going to do is give away this gigantic hobby box of Score Football with some awesome rookies in it. This box will be going to a lucky winner that I actually randomized prior to coming on live, just because I didn't want to take up too much time. And the winner is Justin Pugelli, and I think I said your name right, but if not, again, I'll always apologize in advance. I'm not so great at pronouncing names all the time, but I will say I do enjoy this and giving away products and making people's days. So that is the fun part of it. This has been
talking about giving away product. That eBay break that Dolly's did was pretty outstanding as well. And we have another one of those coming up with a Topps baseball case tomorrow. So that'll be another great thing to look forward to.
That's it. And everyone, we'll see you at the Just Rip It, where I'm going to be watching to see if I land a coffee rookie in my pack break. We'll see you soon.
So, stay tuned. That's coming up right after we get up.
Right after this.
Good. All right. Thanks.